It's just that much space. I'm ready to walk over and kind of walk on work now. It's time. Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invocation by Assembly of God.
Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you that this is the day that you have made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. God, I thank you for the primaries coming up. I ask, Lord, that you would be with us and all of the voting that's going to be taking place. God, we ask most importantly that you would be here, that you would help us in decisions for wisdom and future decisions for Mitchell, South Dakota. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Sabers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Sharks. Here. Smith.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove? We do have a number of board appointments I will note on there.
Any arm twisting or they?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But we still have more to fill.
Okay. So if anybody's interested out there, get a hold of the mayor.
Get hold of us, yes.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address any of these? Okay, roll call, please.
Dosher.
Aye.
McCardle. Aye. Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Sharks. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor, members of city council on an item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concerns. The presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken this time. Sir.
Ready to go, right? So I'm Dan Buchelman, voluntary president of Mitchell Main Street and Beyond. Here to give you a quick update in regards to Main Street. First of all, First Fridays are going strong. Had our second one recently here. Nice crowd until it rained. That always slows it down a little bit. Second Saturday starts June 11th. There will be the Shrine Parade mixed in with Second Saturdays. Second Saturdays is a lighter event. It's a retail promotion and just a chance for people to come down and stop to retail businesses. Most important thing I wanted to bring to you today was the news and the updates about our changes to our director. So you probably caught the news that our director had announced she was going to be leaving Mitchell Main Street. That's mostly because she wanted to spend more time with her young family. But we have good news to announce, two directions. First of all, that we've been able to make some adjustments to her position to allow her to continue with us in a slightly different role. And we've hired a new person as a second part-time employee that will be focused entirely on our events. Her name is Elizabeth Luzak. She is got a great background. She's been the Human Resources Director from Twin City Fan for a couple of years. Before that, she was in military logistics. She was a first lieutenant most recently when she was in the military, responsible for moving logistical operations. She has a young family here in town, a couple of kids and a spouse. So she's going to handle our events. And as far as bang for the buck for the city and the dollars that you contribute to Main Street, I just wanted to make sure to let you know that our position had been budgeted for about 30 hours a week with our previous director. With the changes we're making here, Ashley's going to stay on at about 10 hours a week, and the new person will be about 25 hours a week. So we're actually getting a net benefit of another 5 hours a week. You know our budget's tight. We don't have lots of dollars to spend, but we've been able to accommodate that by asking our new events coordinator to plan for one more large event to happen in our downtown area, similar to our Wingapalooza and our Oktoberfest that we started last year. So we're going to add another event downtown. That'll help us raise some more money and pay the extra expense of having 5 more hours a week in dedicated time to Main Street. So those are the updates I had for you. And last quick thing, The construction happening across the street, the old doll museum, was partially funded with zero interest loan dollars from Mitchell Main Street, so we helped pull that project together. Any questions for me? All right, thank you.
Mr. Dosher, would you like the floor?
Oh, I had a call from a gentleman whose mother, father, and sister are buried in our cemetery here, and he was out there Memorial Day morning and was overly impressed with the shape and condition of the cemetery, especially considering the storms that we had the weekend prior. He was just said that it was never seen it looking so good. So he wanted me to pass along a compliment to people responsible.
Send that over to Cemetery Golf, and we appreciate the work.
Thank you very much. They were busy with a lot of tree work the last couple of weeks, but they were happy to be able to get that done and prep the area out there.
Make sure you use them. I'm gonna get a text. We can hear her talk.
Okay. Anybody else wish to address council?
I got a quick question for Doug.
Go ahead.
I was just curious, I know it's early in the season, but with these crazy Biden gas prices, how's our numbers at the Corn Palace? Are they up or down?
Sure, I can respond to that, Council and Mayor. We do keep track of our numbers. I send those out every Monday to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, their staff and our staff. And so Memorial Week, which is kind of the kickoff of the official season, which, let me go here till last week. So the first week, which would have been May 27th through May 30th, so Memorial Weekend, we had 4,860 visitors. And I think that's a lot. 2021, so we always do comparisons, which was a record year last year, we had 7,475 in that same period of time. So it's down 35%. So this past week, so again, we run them Monday through Sunday. This past week, we had 10,070 visitors over those 7 days. Last year, same period of time, 14,000 visitors, so that's down 28%. So I did tell staff, you know, that probably will be expected, anywhere 20 to 30% this season, but we'll see what happens. If you go there right now, there's probably 70 people in the lobby of the Corn Palace enjoying a visit. So, but it was very busy last year. But I do want to remind the public, while I've got the mic, that this Saturday we have the All Shrine Parade. And that was brought to Mitchell because of the under the big top theme and Corn Palace murals on the Corn Palace. So we're excited. It sounds like 6 or 7 states will be represented. I haven't heard the total number of entries, but that parade starts at 11 o'clock on Main Street, approximately from 9th Street down to 1st Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, Mr. Bender.
How's it going, everybody? All right. So, Uvalde, Texas, we all know what I'm talking about. Unimaginable, right? One thing for sure, you can't always trust the cops to be there and do what we need them to do. Every community has that potential shooter. We do, I know him. My wife and I tried helping this guy out. He's a drug addict down on his left trying to get sober. A friend of mine became his sponsor. In return, that kid burned his house down on purpose. When he's off his meds, he's off his rocker. He had no real accountability, no consequences. He's out in the street right now. Now, I know another guy from Mitchell. This happened here in Mitchell. He has one hand, never dropped a pass. One night across the street from his house, the house across the street from his started on fire. He knows there's 3 kids that live there. They play with his kids, so he runs in, gets the first, runs in, gets the second, runs in a third time, overcome with smoke, starts coughing, gagging, runs out, grabs a ladder, puts it up to the window. By that time the cops gets there, he's running up, the cop tells him to come down. And he'd go up and get the last kid. Then he gets down, the cop kicked the ladder out from under him, knocked it over and told him to wait for the fire department because that's his job. Now my friend called him all kinds of names, coward, whatever else, that I won't mention here. But now maybe that cop made the right decision not going in there, but from my friend's perspective, that cop is nothing but a coward. Now that friend of mine, he's never had any alcohol problems, and now he's in his mid-40s. He started drinking because every night he'd dream about this little girl dying, burning to death. Now, I'd tell you the rest of the story, but nobody really cares. Nobody ever asked him his question about it, you know. Now that anger, resentment, and rage builds up in him, and knowing that he could have saved her, and feeling that if he would be better off dead if he would have tried. Now think about how the whole community of Uvalde feels. That tragedy exacerbated by a cowardly, incompetent police force that prevented parents from going in to save their children. The cops knew about the shooter. That seems to be a reoccurring theme. The public trust has been shattered. That shit reverberates throughout the whole country. Now I'd like to criticize our own justice system here, their misplaced priorities, their failure to hold people accountable. The over-medication of our kids, the antidepressants, antipsychotics, is getting worse. The main side effects of those are suicidal thoughts and violent behaviors. Showing kids that life isn't valuable by killing boarding kids by the millions and celebrating it. Instead, I'd implore you as leaders of this community to tell our local school system to start training and arming our teachers. There's a certified NRA instructor here in Mitchell, Mike Hendrickson. He's extremely knowledgeable and would love to help. And none of us want to burden our teachers and administrators with that, but I guess that's just the reality we live in. I think we all should be armed anymore, I guess. Now, I don't know all the gun laws, and you know I'm not much for following the rules, but if I was a teacher in today's toxic environment, I would carry.
You got to wrap it up, sir.
Okay, but you know, regardless of rules, I think we should have these teachers carry. Now, I'm not saying the cops wouldn't rush in and save people. I'm sure the little guys here would. I'm just saying that they're usually late to the party, and we need to provide our teachers with the tools they need to protect themselves and these kids. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the council? Okay, Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for City Council recess to the Board of Adjustment. Second. Motion by Mr. Farrington, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing an action on application for Valesky. Tara Valesky has applied for a front yard setback variance of 19 feet versus 25 feet for a front porch addition located at 497th Avenue, legally described as Lot 4, Block 4, First Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Said property is zoned R2, single-family residential. Mr. Janigas.
Yeah, Mark Janigas.
Introduce yourself.
Mark Janigas, Planning and Zoning.
He's a new hire.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Planning Commission.
Sell all that hair?
Locks of love. No, it wasn't quite that long, but
okay.
it was getting close. Planning Commission heard this, recommended approval 5-0 with 2 absent. There were 4 letters for it, 1 letter against it. If you look on the GIS photo of it, there is if you scroll down to the next one, there is an overhang that was there existing, 3-foot overhang. She would like to center that on the house more, put a 6-foot overhang instead of a 3-foot overhang, and then a little deck and patio with stairs underneath it. It'll be a cantilevered structure for the roof, so there won't be any posts coming down. There's no view issues from anywhere since it's not on a corner lot. Applicant's here if you have any questions for her at all.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? What? Did you want to talk, Tara? Oh, all right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. I won't even tell you what he said up here.
I can imagine.
Set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing, 6/21/22. Jason Bates has applied for variance for maximum lot coverage of 50% versus 45% to construct a detached garage located 1112 North Raleigh Street, legally described as Lot 16, Block 4, D.A. Scott's Edition, City of Mitchell, property zoned R2.
Move to set the date. Second.
A motion second by both Mr. Rice and Mrs. Charts. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing, 6/21/22. DAC Properties LLC has applied for variance for side corner yard setback of 12 feet versus 20 feet to construct an unattached 24 by 24 garage on a 43 4-foot wide lot located at 1001 East 4th, legally described as the west 7.5 feet of Lot 9, and all Lot 10, Block 9, Gleason's Addition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, property zoned R2.
Set the date.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. McCarr. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 6/21/22. TC Chiropractic has applied for conditional use permit for a parking facility located at 317 West 13th Avenue, legally described as Lot 5, Block 27, Capital Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, real property zoned R4. Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 6/21/22. Maxwell Risden of Watchfire Signs on behalf of Crawl Eye Clinic has applied for conditional use permit to install and operate an electric massage center.
Message.
Sorry. Thank you. I was thinking massage would be good about now. Electric Message Center at the residential district located at 415 North Sanborn Boulevard, legally describes lots 1 through 6 in the east half of vacated Edmund Street, Block 12, Capital Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, real property zone R2.
Set the date.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene the City Council. Entertain motion for Board of Adjustment to adjourn City Council reconvene regular session. Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearings and actions on the following alcohol license applications. On the application of Second and Lawler doing business as Main Street Mercantile, 615 North Main, Mitchell, for a new retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota wine, does not include video lottery, effective July 1st, 2022. Mr. Costa, you got anything?
Mayor and Council, Chief Coster of the Police Department, we have no concerns about this application.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. An application of Second and Lawler doing business as Main Street Mercantile, 615 North Main, Mitchell, for a new retail on-off sale wine and cider, does not include video lottery, effective July 1st, 2022.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Savers.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one?
Can you free advertising?
What? I just want to thank you.
You want a free advertising? Talk a little bit about it?
Sorry, I don't look very good or clean. We're going to have some patio out back and seating, restaurant seating. We'll have breakfast, lunch, and supper, and a lot of new items. So thank you for the approval. Hopefully a week and a half. Hopefully.
Will you still operate your Second and Lawler store?
I will have something else there at some point. My husband tells me a couple of years, but I doubt it. It'll be sooner. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve applications for renewal of alcohol licenses. Mr. Coster, any issues?
Mayor and Council, no issues.
Move approved.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address these? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve noise permit for Brian and Chris Hildebrand, June 17th, 2022. You want to say anything?
You're all invited.
50th birthday party for my wife.
Oh,
Little two-piece band.
fireworks then? Oh,
I-
just two-piece band?
I didn't get approval for that.
Okay.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to address it? You want to say anything else? No, you're good? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve an increase in the smart meter penalty. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Joe Schrader, Public Works Director. The $200 fine that is currently in place was raised on January 1 of 2022. I believe at that time we had 6 that were left. Now we have 4. So you wanted this brought back, so it is back. Looking to increase it another $200 to $400 total. Smart meters or direct read meters, I guess is probably a better way to describe them. Doesn't require actual physical having to go out in the field, whereas now we do have to physically go and read those meters. And also water consumption can be tracked daily through water billing. And this can allow us to detect leaks that are happening in the household.
Is that a yearly fine?
It's every 6 months.
No.
Oh, you mean the bill?
That's monthly.
It's monthly, every month. And the council would request to come back every 6 months.
Yeah. And Dan, I kind of have the same thought. So $200 a month isn't enough of a penalty to make these people change at this point?
I guess.
Is it maybe it's not a money issue? Is there some other way we can solve the problem without penalizing them money-wise?
Shut them off.
Well, I don't think we have that option legally.
So, I mean, you can't shut it off.
Right. But I mean, so in 6 months, then if they pay 400, then we're going to go to 800, then we're going to go to 1,600. I mean, do we have a strategy?
That is the strategy.
That is the strategy right now.
That's, Justin, to me, not a strategy.
I mean, the last increase brought 2 more that switched the meters. I can certainly reach out to them again to let them know before this goes into effect that it will be going into effect, so they don't see the first bill in our wow. Or if they do come in after the first bill, we can waive this fee if they agree to swap out. But I can reach out to them.
And we have 4, and I don't want to know who it is. I don't care.
Have we talked to them in the past and
Yes.
got their opinion?
I know we have talked to them in the past, and I know we have not switched out their meter yet.
And they're all current on their bill?
I do believe so, yes.
Hey, Justin, what legal obligation do we have? I mean, I understand they're paying for their bill, but it doesn't necessarily mean you always got to provide the service. We all know that. I mean, is there some legal obligation from a city that we have to if they pay the bills?
Yeah, I don't think that you'd probably go the route of considering a disconnect. I think you'd probably seek a court order to actually just go in and do the replacement without their consent. Or that's honestly probably the best alternative. It's just a matter of weighing it out to whether you want to do something that invasive or if you want to try to do something less invasive, like keep increasing the fund. So.
Yeah. I hope we don't have to get to that either.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a problem. Let's talk to them. I mean, let's see if that helps any, but I have no problem raising it to 400, I guess, if that's it. Okay. Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? We would more than love to change these out and be done with it. Okay? Anybody in the audience wish to address these? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve application for a DANR local freight truck rebate program. Mr. Schrader.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council. We are requesting that council allows us to apply for a DNR local freight truck rebate program. This program takes out older vehicles that do not meet the EPA standards that the federal government would like us to be at. We are looking at replacing a 2001 dump truck. We'd probably be looking at the 35 or 45% grant, and we would look at budgeting for this dump truck in 2023, and the possibility that it may not be ready or through the grant award until 2024. So with that, we'd ask that council allow us to apply for this grant. This truck does need to be replaced.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
second by Mrs. Church. Further discussion?
Did you, to me, it looks like government incentive to buy electric vehicle.
Yes. More environmentally friendly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have no problem.
Okay.
So the cost of the new truck would be $200,000, and the grant would cover 35 to 45% of that, is that
Correct.
right? Is that right?
Yep.
So, okay.
How much is that truck? When's the last time we bought a truck like that, Joe? You know?
About 2 years ago, I think was the last one I got.
And how much was that roughly?
Well, after we get it all put together, they're 180.
Oh, okay.
You really build these up from the ground up yourself, right?
We do, but this one would come all intact.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
Further
no
discussion?
problem. Apply for the application.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve stormwater discharge and pipeline license with BNSF. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. This is on our East Spruce Street project over by MTI. This allows us to install storm sewer improvements. There's already an existing culvert there that we will be extending on both sides of the railroad tracks. We currently did not have a license agreement for that storm sewer piping, so this will bring us up to date with BNSF and their permits and allow us to have that utility in there right away. The license fee that's associated with that is $3,700. There's also a railroad protective policy that we'll be purchasing as well for $1,266. And I recommend that council approve the license agreement and authorize the mayor to sign.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion?
Just the comment that we have to pay them money for us to do the work in the right of way.
Sounds like a racket, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Can I go back?
Sure.
So we'll get the approval, et cetera. When would that work for the culverts? Is that next year?
So right now we're planning for 2023. There's a lot of coordination we have to do with the railroad.
Surprised we got railroad agreements this early.
Yeah. But we've been working at it for a while.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Surprises to come.
Yeah. Approval of bid and authorization for replacement of one patrol car. Mr. Coster.
Mayor and Council, Chief Coster of the Police Department. We're asking tonight for your approval to purchase, would be our third vehicle from Kansas Highway Patrol. We've had good success previously getting 2 Ford Explorers from them. When we initially came to budget last year, we were expecting an Explorer, but they have since rotated their fleet to Durangos, which is why you're seeing a Durango Pursuit vehicle on the agenda tonight in front of you.
I was surprised to see that they were turning it in after only 49,000 miles. Don't we usually drive ours a lot more miles than that?
We do, but Kansas Highway Patrol is getting quite a bit of attention with this program. I can't tell you how many years they've been doing it, but they hold them for a short period, turn them while there's still more value to them. So that's about the point where they start rotating them out.
Would it be wise for us to do the same?
Right now, I don't have any at that mileage that I could rotate out. We have cars that are above that mileage.
Keep in mind, when you get rid of them that early, you got to replace them.
You have to replace them, and right now, they're very hard to come by.
I was just interested in that.
Yeah.
And the mileage put on by Highway Patrol is going to be different than local law enforcement as well.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to award quote for Raleigh Water Main Project 2022-14. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, this project will replace water main under the Raleigh Interstate Bridge. We have a contract with the DOT to participate in this work for sidewalk going underneath the interstate at this location. They will be replacing the asphalt as part of this project, and we will be replacing the water main within that area. We'll also finish this water main extension when we do our sidewalk project on Raleigh. The loan quote we received was from Menning Excavating for $29,150. It was comparable to their 10-inch water main on the 9th and 5th project, so we do recommend approval of the quote.
When would that be done, Joe?
They're talking it could start within the week or two.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Sorry. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this?
Any idea why the other people didn't submit bids?
Just busy, full. So we're lucky Menning had a window where they could get it in.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to award bid for paving and overlay project 2022-15. Mr. Schreier.
Mr. Mayor, Council, bids were opened on May 26th in City Hall Council Chambers at 1:30. One bid was received by Commercial Asphalt. Bid Schedule A for our general paving and overlay, $149,610. Bid Schedule B was $68 per ton to be picked up at the plant. We are recommending that we award bid schedules A and B to Commercial Asphalt. The composite asphalt cost is approximately $16.20 more expensive than last year, which was expected. And the cost to pick up at the plant was $10 more. We do have $7,000 contingency for the project, so we are recommending awarding.
And this is for asphalt
So they
just at this project,
so this will
or
include
is other places in town also?
multiple places. This includes our 10th Avenue project from Lawler to the high school football field, Edmonds 1st to 2nd, which is a water main replacement project, and then there's a mill and overlay on Lawler from 5th to 7th.
Ah, okay. Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to award bid for nuisance mowing project 2022-43. Mr. Schrader.
Bids were open on May 19th in City Hall Council Chambers at 1:30. We received two bids, AAA Lawn Care and Maintenance at $130 per hour, and Russell Mowing, which is non-conforming. Staff recommends awarding the bid to AAA Lawn Care and Maintenance. It's a yearly contract, renewable up to 5 years with mutual agreement between both parties.
Who done this last year, Joe?
Last year was Quality Cut.
So with the concerns that we've had already with lawn mowing throughout the city, knowing from the reports that we get, as they've been reactive pretty good, I mean, AAA, have we been using them or have we been using somebody else?
What we've been currently using, Mayor and Council Chief Koster, what we've currently been using since Quality Cut was not interested in pursuing the contract is we've been rotating between three just to get the jobs done at the current time. Hones AAA and then Quality Cut was picking up some of that work. So until we get through the bid process, we're just using who we had been using prior to that contract.
What was the per hour on that, Chief?
Currently, what we're doing is it's their per hour rate. We didn't have a contract with anyone, so it was what their per rate was.
So do you think this is in the ballpark?
It's in the ballpark.
So last year, their price that they bid was $70 an hour, and there was some confusion when they bid the project, oversight, where they thought at a minimum they would receive $70 per lawn at a minimum. But the way the contract reads is it's per quarter-hour increments. So if your residential lawn takes you a half hour, now that $130 puts you probably in that range where they thought they were going to be at anyway. So it was an adjustment.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen,
Second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? With gas prices, I'm sure it's going to keep going. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve amendment number 2 to Daily Drive Lift Station Design Agreement A 2019-51 with SPN and Associates. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is for our Daily Drive Lift Station project for hours worked above our construction agreement. As you can see, our design phase services and our bidding services were slightly under budget. Construction phase services are approximately $6,000 over the original budget, which comes out to a difference of $3,645.35. The project did experience delays due to unfavorable soil conditions, and they also had issues in getting equipment due to procurement timetables. We do recommend that City Council approve the attached amendment number 2 with SPN. And contingencies for the projects are approximately at $142,000.
SPN did design this project, correct?
That's correct. You can see the project was started back in 2019. And you know the procurement issues, like any contractor.
I know the procurement issues.
Yep. So
my question becomes, if they designed it, how did they not know the soil conditions?
there was not, well, the geotech only did soil borings where the lift station was. They didn't, so we had a project was all the way from starting at National Guard Road by the National Guard to 407th.
Okay, so some of the piping area
Yep.
soil was an issue.
Yep.
Not under the lift.
Not under the lift station. Yep.
Okay.
And I guess some of the issues we had,
Sufficiently.
the contractor wanted to stay out there and work. So when they had times of, when they were slow, when they could have been doing multiple things at once, they were only doing, one thing. So that person was out there watching less amounts of work than what was originally projected, is what it came down to.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2022-21, Nalka Grant Co-op Agreement with Matthew and Michaela Dorr.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is a project that comes from our NACA grant. It will put approximately 25 acres of area back into grassland. The total project cost is $3,531.94. There is requirements that they have to follow through the project as far as how they manage the grassland, weeds, haying, or those types of things. And those are followed through with the NRCS and Davidson County Conservation District. So staff recommends council approval of the attached agreement, authorize the mayor to sign.
This is some of the money we got for grant money from the federal government for watershed improvement.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2022-24, Tax Increment District 27, Developers Agreement. Mr. Peterson, I assume that's why you're here?
Yes.
Who wants to kick this off?
I'll go ahead and get you started here. At this point, the council's previously created tax increment district number 27. That was the residential housing development off Fiala Road. And also previously approved the project plan. I won't go into a whole lot of detail on the contract that you see before you tonight. Really what it is just a document between the city and the contractor laying out the terms, but that money's going to get passed through. It's not a whole lot different than anything that you would have seen in the project plan at this point, so I'll just let Don take over and leave it for questions.
Thank you. Don Peterson, counsel for the developer. In this case, Justin, what he said is right. The TIF statutes, law require us to have a development agreement in addition to the project plan, and so you've all had an opportunity to review that. I won't go through it. It's just kind of a summary of what's in the project plan.
One question. So in section 5, it talks about the Department of Revenue, 909,719, and then it says need to be double checked. Has that been checked?
Yes.
Or?
That was, that probably should have came out. That, we need to make sure that the tax base was correct. So okay. It was.
Before we get signatures, we'll just take that.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to address this one? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you. Action to approve resolution R 2022-28, amending the 2022 compensation plan for the city of Mitchell. Ms. Owen.
Mayor and council, enclosed in the packet was a resolution that would amend the compensation plan that was adopted late last year for fiscal year 2022. The resolution would, eliminate the administrative secretary. As you can see, we used to have 2 assigned to the Public Works Department. I would change it to 1, and we would add one additional engineering technician. It used to be 1 FTE, now we'd have 2 FTEs. This is a result, I think Don gave me his voice. The administrative secretary position was vacant due to some personnel changes, and so by eliminating this additional secretarial position, it allows the Public Works Department to hire some staff that can assist with more technical work in the engineering division of the Public Works Department. The change will not impact the current fiscal year budget due to another position within the department that's been vacant since the beginning of the year, so the cost increase would be absorbed in that. If you were just looking at apples to apples, a base wage for both positions, it would be an increase to the annual budget of $15,617, but does not increase the number of employees for the city. It's just trading one secretarial position for a more technical engineering tech position. And I can answer any questions that you may have. I should also state, we do have the engineering tech position currently posted on the website, but it will not be filled unless council approves the resolution tonight.
Any application?
Today.
Good.
We received 1 today.
Oh, okay.
And it hasn't been on all that long. I think it's only been a week and a half, and we had that holiday in there too. So I would anticipate we get more as we get closer to the closing date usually, so hopefully that's the case with this one as well.
Move to approve the resolution.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve resolution R 2022-29, transfer of Lot 1, Block 1, Fullerton Property, 2nd edition. This is the corner of Minnesota and 15th, which was kind of left hanging after our last meeting. We counteroffered, and the counteroffer was not taken, so your options are to make a positive motion and deny it, or vote against it, or I guess you could continue to leave it tabled to play out in case we get other.
The recommendation is for the council to postpone in the item in the packet? Yes.
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Yeah, this morning we did talk about either postponing or, like the mayor said, you could take action and then just a positive motion and then turn down the positive motion, and then staff would just bring it back at a future date. It's up to you.
Either way, we have to address it because right now it's hanging out there.
I will move to postpone.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone. That's correct. Second by Mr. Savers. Okay. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve resolution R 2022-31, plat of Ncbc Track 2 of the southwest quarter of Section 13, Township 104 North, Range 60 west of the 5th primary, in Davidson County, South Dakota, is requested by Gregory Clam. Mr. Jenigas.
Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this, 5-0 with 2 absent. This is outside the ETJ, but is within the 3 mile. It's actually about 14,000 feet from the northwest corner of airport, or about 12,500 feet from Macheski's development up north. So it is on the outstretch. It's on the north side of 247th. Mr. Platt would like to sell the land to the neighbor to the east of that, which would be Hetlands. There is ingress and egress on 405 and 247th. The county will actually hear this tomorrow and then next Tuesday for planning for council. Take any questions you have.
Bless you.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Barrington. Second by Mr. McCarty. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2022-34, historic preservation findings in relation to the property at 1200 West University Avenue. Mrs. Creasy, you want to speak to this?
Well, but
I'll give a brief overview of it. DW came for a demo permit for 2 buildings, the Science and Music Hall back in September of 2020. With getting that request, they are on the national registry, so we have to send a letter to SHPO for that. A letter we received back requested an abbreviated study. DW put together their findings. We also looked at those. Mitchell Historic Preservation Commission met March 3rd, agreed with DW that due to high costs and feasibility to recommend raising the buildings with the condition National Park Survey, Historic American Building Survey be completed. Under state law, SHPO must be notified of the project and the historic impact. We received findings back from them that they believe that the proposed demolition sought by DW would encroach upon, damage, and destroy historical properties that are listed on the National National Register of Historic Places, but they also agreed that if demo was going to be allowed, a HAB survey be completed. State law further provides that the City Council has the ultimate say in this, and then we have to notify SHPO and give them 10 days if you do allow for the demo permit to be approved. There have been some other HAB surveys done with this. A HAB survey is just taking pictures of the whole structure as is, but then also drawing it to where it used to be, and then it just gets stored at the library out in DC. So it does stay on record forever. It's just on paper and not actually the building itself. Teresa's here if you have any questions for her, or I can answer anything else if you have for me too.
Yes, I'm here to ask you to let us tear down 2 buildings on our campus. So the old Science Hall, Hughes Hall, that one, and then at the front of, well, what used to be the front of campus, on the north end of campus, that we call it Prather Hall now. At one time it was called Music Hall. It was a president's house at one time. Both of those facilities.
Spire building.
Pardon me?
The one with
the spires, yes.
What, can you explain what the HABs, is there a positive outcome to that, or is it just a long-term documentation?
Long-term documentation of is what it is.
So
and
it's
we
not
have
like,
almost
not like
all
they
of it.
give us a bunch of money for something.
They give us no money to do it. We also have most of the documentation already. We have drawings of it, and it's just a matter of compiling it and sending it in for record. We have lots of pictures. We have lots of drawings.
They still have glasses in those buildings?
No. No, the only thing left to move out of Hughes Hall is the snack pack weekend program, and they'll be moving next week, so.
What were you using the old President House for?
It has a long history. It was the President's House. It was at one time called Music Hall because the music department was in there and they had lessons and those types of things. Most recently, before we closed it down, we were using it for offices for our development offices, but we have moved them over to the museum.
Okay, so it's completely...
It's empty, has been empty for quite some time. Hughes has been unused as far as classrooms go for the last 12 months. Like I said, the only thing that's been in there has been the snack pack program, and they're moving, so.
I was thinking it said that there had been one class, there was still one class that was being until just maybe in December.
No, we moved them out last fall.
Okay. Thought I saw that. To me, it's just so sad to see these go because I know personally, my kids played piano at music hall, blah, blah, you know, I feel like they're beautiful buildings, but it is just what you have to do as a sign of progress. And do you have plans for those spaces?
At this point, they will be converted to green space. That will complete our master plan for the university, and so then our board will convene again this year and determine what goes on next. As you know, we've put up a few buildings over the last few years, so.
They'd entertain the Mrs. Chark's music hall, though.
And it's probably no secret, you still need dormitories.
Yes, our dorms are full, yep.
I'll move approval of... There you go. I mean, why wouldn't we name it the Susan Sharks Music Hall or Dormitory?
The Historical Planning Commission meeting minutes talked about possible use, or people would want woodwork or other things from inside.
So we will salvage...
reuse of the stone.
We will salvage as much of the internal material as we can. As far as the use of the stone, it's always a wonderful thought. It's very expensive to reclaim granite.
Yeah.
And so, you know, obviously, part of the contract is if they'll be grinding a lot of that granite. But it really isn't as economical. You know, we kept some from Graham to try to reuse it, and it's ridiculously expensive to reclaim.
You'll reuse it in roads when they get done draining.
I'm not going to tell you what they're going to use it for. I'm just going to say that they will make use of the materials. The goal is to avoid as much as we can taking anything to landfill. Yep.
Move approval of the resolution.
Yeah, motion by Mr. Chark, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion?
Would that be with the condition of the HAB survey then?
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to make sure that's on.
That's what I...
Isn't that what you said?
That's exactly what I meant to say.
I was sure she missed that. Thank you.
Did you miss that?
Okay, anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Good luck, Mrs. Creasy.
Thank you.
First reading on ordinance 02022-08, amending Mitchell City Code Section 611 regarding animals at large. This kind of came from me to Mr. Johnson because I happen to run my dog with a hunting collar, and there's a certain party in my neighborhood that continually challenges me on it. I had discussed it with Mr. Overweg when he was here just after I took office, and he said they don't enforce it if you have a collar on. They consider that a leash. So we need to modify our ordinance to match what was being done. Mr. Koster has since taken over Mr. Overweg's position, and do you have any comments on it?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, you want to go through it?
I think you've covered most of it. The intention really is just to expand the ordinance a little bit to allow for the use of those remote pet collars. And we also added some language in about being under control by verbal command, which I've seen in a couple different cities. I don't recall which ones off the top of my head, but I think with expanding that and then putting some more definition on what it means to be under complete control, we'll still have an ordinance that should be fairly easy to enforce, but I'm sure that there will be some growing pains as we move over from one to the other. One other thing that I'd point out is in Section 3, as you'll see it up on the screen there towards the end, it does start to reference the ordinance you'll be considering next and how that would tie in to an animal being declared restricted or vicious.
So there's no distance, like with shot collars?
At this point, we don't have an explicit distance built into the ordinance. So, I mean,
Do you
that's,
think that's important? I mean, I had the same question. I noticed that too, and I wondered about that.
I just know
I do a lot of hunting, and different hunters go close, there's a lot of difference.
yeah, that's certainly an option. Trying to find the,
It just seems like there's a difference between having your dog on a shot collar that's running relatively closely to you and running far off ahead.
right, and I think the reason that we didn't necessarily build in a distance requirement is, you know, you might be around a lot of people, and you could be within 6 feet, and that might be too far.
Sure.
Or you might be around nobody, and they could be 20 feet, and that's just fine. So,
I mean, it's important to recognize that this isn't hunting. I mean, that's a whole different ball game than being in town.
yep.
So it seems, I don't know. I'm thinking about my husband and our dog, and
We do get a lot, in our neighborhood in particular, there are a lot of people who do this. I'm not the only one. I do it because I'm riding a bike and I run my dog on a bicycle. There are other people out there that do that. Usually the dogs are pretty close to them. But, you know, I don't know. I guess if you want a distance, we have to come up with that distance.
And one of the major reasons, or I guess one of the other considerations that I put into that is we've got the specific language in there that it not make contact with other people without their consent. So that's kind of an alternative way to attempt to address that without specifically putting in a footage requirement.
So I probably should have picked up on this, but is there a distance for the length of the leash?
I'm going to have to check our current version because they all kind of bleed.
I mean, there's some long leashes out there.
I know, and then I guess if there doesn't say anything, it could be a half-mile leash.
They all kind of bleed together.
Why would we be worried about the electronic if we don't do the physical?
It doesn't look like our current ordinance has a specific distance for a leash, but I know that I've seen in other communities, they'll typically have like a 6-foot requirement, or if it's an extendable leash, that it only have a certain maximum extension, or that it only be out so far. So yeah, there's ways to build that in if you want. Initial version, we just tried to do that without.
So you're saying if I have a dog and I don't have one, I put a collar on him, I send him outside, he goes 5 blocks away, you pick him up. You can't pick him up. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think that would be the case.
It tended to me to what it looks like in there, Justin.
Yeah, I guess I don't read it that way. I think there's an expectation that your dog's not going to stray 5 blocks away.
So if he strays out a block away, that shot collar can still work and buzz him. Police officer comes, dog catcher comes, picks him up. Is that right?
I'd say if there's not evidence that the animal's under the complete control of the owner, then yeah, I think the officer's got the ability to take that dog.
If you're not out there with your dog, you're not in control of it.
So basically
you're saying
something,
if you can't see your dog.
basically the presence of an individual.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think there's going to have to be some kind of direct observation of that animal. You're not just going to be able to let them wander free. And, you know, it might be in the same yard, it might be out a window, it might be something like that, as long as there's some kind of direct control and the animal's not doing something undesirable.
Right. I think as long as that part of clarity is there, just so people don't abuse the privilege the other way. Oh, I'm going to put my shot collar on him and let him go run around a little bit because now I know he's legal. Kind of thing, you know, because we all know how everybody likes to manipulate the system when they can. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, you know, I'm sure that people will try to abuse it at some point, and, you know, if we start running into problems and we find out we can enforce it, we can always bring it back and make further changes too.
Move approval at first reading.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. First reading on ordinance 0202209, amending Mitchell City Code, Chapter 61A regarding vicious animals. Who wants to start this? Mr. Costa's passing the baton.
Well, I was going to let Mike talk to some of the issues that they were currently having first.
I can do that, Justin.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, some of the issues we've encountered, our Community Resource Officer, Michaela Brown, has encountered some difficulty when dealing with past issues with our current ordinance. It's a little murky when it comes to a domestic animal being attacked by another domestic animal as to whether that was able to be used for potentially dangerous or dangerous animals. What we were asking for some clarification there for, as other cities have done, that whether a dog attacks another dog or it attacks a human, it's all considered the same type of behavior. We're not looking at what the victim is, we're looking at the behavior of the dog itself and its propensity to bite or its lack of inhibition to bite. Part of what Michaela had done is queried Sioux Falls. She's done quite a bit of work with the Sioux Falls animal control people, and they have an ordinance that they feel is quite clear and works well for them and is enforceable. So parts of our ordinance are mirrored after theirs in the version that you're going to be seeing tonight. That requires changing of terminology a bit as well. You're going to see restricted animal being swapped in for potentially dangerous, and then you will see vicious animal replacing the terms that we used to have for dangerous. We do see occasionally where people will look at their animal and it has bitten. Potentially dangerous can be a term that isn't terribly palatable for folks, where restricted is truly what it is. It requires more restrictions on the animal, fencing, muzzle, leash, and this being a 6-foot leash, restricting that distance.
So I think with that background, I can kind of walk you through some of the changes. As Mike kind of referenced, some of it's just to the definitions and terminology. The Dunbar scale that you see referenced there, as Mike indicated, it's just kind of, I don't know if I would say industry standard, but kind of an industry accepted way to categorize these incidents. It's one that the Sioux Falls ordinance has adopted, and they believe it's been working well, and our animal control officer is familiar with it and believes that it would be a benefit to use here as well. So along with that, we made some minor changes to the other terms in there, slight change to the word menaces, just to get it to tie together with some of the other definitions that we're moving over to. Mike mentioned the changes over to restricted and vicious. The vicious animal definition itself also kind of incorporates the parts of the state law definition for vicious animal that we previously didn't really line up with. Now we kind of line up with it a little bit better. Another thing that was not ideal with our current ordinance is it was sometimes difficult to classify an incident that was maybe a borderline case where, you know, it probably didn't rise to the level of the animal needing to be declared dangerous, but the way that our definitions for potentially dangerous factored in, you couldn't really declare it potentially dangerous either. So this is going to allow those two classifications to tie together a lot better, and you'll be able to treat those borderline cases in a way that makes a little bit more sense. We also cleared up the procedures. There's some question right now as to whether our appeal procedure even applies to our potentially dangerous classifications. Now we won't have that question anymore. We make clear that it's applicable to both. Other than that, it's probably more just reorganization of some parts. We added in some additional details on confinement, what it takes to have an adequate enclosure for a restricted animal. We also added in a number of exceptions for an animal not being declared restricted or vicious, where previously some of that exception would have been built into how it was defined. Now it's a separate standalone exception, so it's just kind of moving it from one place to the other. Ultimately, in most cases, the same facts are going to land an animal in the same classification as it was before, or exempt it in the same manner that it would have before. We built in some language about how all of the previously declared animals will slot into the new system. We added some language about animals that may have been declared restricted or vicious in another jurisdiction, how we're going to treat those. And I think that's the majority of the notable changes there, so I'll open it up for questions.
I've got a couple comments. So first, I like the fact that this talks about animals and it's not dogs and there's no breed or anything put in there. So it could be cats, snakes, anything that is allowed to be kept in the city.
Yep, could potentially apply to any kind of.
So a couple of the comments about fencing and other things might not really apply because I'm not sure. That seems almost specific to dogs, but to me, I guess that's okay. The other comment I have it's on the police chief appeal. We talk about the police chief shall issue a written determination of the appropriateness of the classification. The decision shall be mailed and shall be served in person or by mail upon the person who filed the appeal. How long does the chief have to do that? What time frame does he have? A week, a day, a month?
I thought it was 5 days, maybe.
5 days on the first part, but not on the chief's written response.
What's written notice the animal's been declared a restricted animal, the owner
Yeah, it looks like we did not build in a specific day requirement for that, just that they issue it promptly.
Yeah, on the appeal, yeah, you've got a certain amount of time, but I just don't want it to, hey, it sits for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and they're waiting to hear.
Do you do that now, Mike?
I don't believe our current ordinance addresses a time frame either.
But do you send a letter out or a citation now, or do you yourself or not?
Well, since taking over, I have now had my second and third one on my desk as of today. Wow. So we have had very few.
So it doesn't happen often.
But
Okay.
yeah, so far for me, it has not happened often, but I do not believe have anything currently as a time frame in our current city ordinance. We try and make it very reasonable. I mean, it's obviously an emotional issue for most of those owners, and they've already gotten the opinion of our community resource officer on the situation, and we want to get that taken care of. Within a reasonable amount of time, we have to review the case, and we're not going to leave it hang out there for weeks.
And it could be if you're doing some additional investigation or having a hearing, that could affect the timeline as well.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
I know when we addressed this ordinance, obviously we've been sitting here for quite some time. I think that was part of the reason why, is I think it had something to do with maybe, like you said, just depending on what the portion of what would happen, or how bad the incident was, or if it was a weekend, was it a holiday, just timing like that, by not locking us into 5 days, giving us, adequate amount of time and, proper amount of time to still get it done and do it promptly. So I think it gave us a little gray area for us to buy a little time and not have somebody pushed in the corner, probably the chief, to get this result done. So,
if I may, I know in the past, for ones that Chief Overwig had to deal with, if we do have an animal bite, whether the animal has current rabies vaccination or does not have current rabies vaccination. There's a 10-day quarantining period, whether it be without a rabies shot at Lakeview, or if the owners have current rabies, proof of current rabies, they are allowed to quarantine at home. At the end of that 10-day period, there's a wellness check for that animal. And in the past, with our past animal control, and Officer Brown is doing very similar, you know, unless there's a lot of facts that need to be gathered, within that first 2 or 3 days, there's a very good idea, are we or are we not going to be declaring this animal? And there's usually communication with that owner, so they've got time to formulate that, you know, appeal prior to that 10-day wellness inspection. You know, so a lot of that is already been taken care of by the time we get to that 10-day window.
Okay, I've got one more comment, question. It's 6187, item C, where it asks that if there's an animal that's been declared vicious or whatever in another jurisdiction and they move to Mitchell, that that person has to notify the police department. How are you going to enforce that?
It keeps the honest people honest. We've had, you know, folks that will move to town or call ahead in previous and say, you know, I have animal X that has been declared, you know, whatever their terminology be, what are your restrictions in the city for my animal?
We don't do that with humans.
I know we've stumbled on a few that we found out later over the years that had been declared in another jurisdiction that we weren't told about.
And if they don't ask you and they move here, then they moved here and we make them a criminal.
But we don't register animals in Mitchell, so
Right.
there's, you know, if we had an animal registration where you had to register the animal, they'd be easier to find those potentially, but.
I don't agree with that either.
I don't want to go down that road, but.
It's just that it seemed a little weird to me, and I have no idea how you'd enforce it. So that's fine. That's my only comment, question.
Honestly, I think the most likely scenario is you end up having some future incident with that,
And you find
with
out.
that animal, and you find out about it.
Yep.
Place on first reading ordinance 02022-09.
Motion by Mr. Allen?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wright. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Brian, I think you're the only one left.
Great the party.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Executive session, entertain a motion to go into executive session in accordance with 125.23 legal and 125.24 employee negotiation. Motion by Mr. Chart, second by Mr. Cardle. Further discussion? All those in favor of executive session signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. There will be no action after executive session. Leaving?
Last one through the door.
Tired.
We're waiting for the gavel.
All right.
Sam?
We're adjourned.